My guest this week from Mike on Much podcast, Mr. Mike Veerman. How's it going, man?
I'm well. How are you?
Excellent. Nice to meet you.
Likewise.
Thanks for coming out to our temporary digs here in Hamilton.
It's great. You're literally down the street from my place right now.
Oh, really? Yeah. I didn't realize that you live locally.
Born and raised.
Oh, well, that was actually my first question, so why don't we get right into it? So you started here in the Hammer, did you?
I did, yeah.
Okay, so tell me what it's like about growing up in this place, because I'm finding this town really interesting.
It's awesome. I mean, yeah, like I grew up on the West Mountain, but I live downtown now.
Okay.
And I don't know, it's like a blue-collar town.
Yeah.
Hardworking, creative, fun, cool. I love it.
It seems like there's a bit of a resurgence going on around here as of late.
Yeah, I'll say that. When I was in like high school, it was like nobody came downtown. Okay. And like now it's like...
Like scary nobody came
downtown?
Yeah,
you got it. It would, like my grandma would be like, "You're going to get stabbed."
Okay.
Which terrified my brother and I. But yeah, I mean, now I feel like it's being completely gentrified. Like I think everyone from Toronto's weirdly migrating here, and
we used that term as we were discussing that with some of the business owners around here, and the reception we got was not good.
I know. Well, that's a whole other like sort of thing that's going on. There's kind of like this, there's sort of like the old school Hamilton people that are weirdly pushing back, and then there's sort of more progressive Hamilton people that are like, it's good, like let's, because you know, like this street we're on right now, James Street, is like completely different than it was a decade ago.
Right.
And you know, why? What have you been hearing? Tell me the scuttlebutt.
No, I mean, all it was is we came here about a month ago to sort of investigate the town because we knew we wanted to bring the show here. And we were looking at different venues in different places, and Justice got us down. We were checking out James Street and happened to walk into, I don't remember the specific one, but I think it was one of the coffee shops that we went to check out or whatever. And I'll give a second for the motorcycle.
Yeah. As we're talking about the city, there's like motorbike gangs. Yeah, like the Hells Angels have moved in.
Like for real?
No, I'm kidding.
Oh, okay.
I just heard a motorcycle. I'm still scared of getting stabbed.
Right, nice. Yeah. So we had walked into one of the coffee shops, and we said, like, oh, it looks like the area is sort of like, you know, it's gentrifying. And I mean, I know the term has some not so great connotations, but basically it's what happens to every city, right? Like the art people come in, they take over burnt out and run down buildings, they turn it into something worth, you know, having, and then the money follows.
Yeah. And
it looks like that's what's happening. But I said the word gentrify, and the guy behind the counter was like, we don't talk about that.
Yeah.
Do you feel that as you're walking around?
Yeah, I mean, like, you know, you'll read things, or I mean, I'm not super like sort of plugged in that sense, like talking to the local business owners, but I know exactly what you're talking about as far as like that attitude. But hey, man.
So tell me about growing up on the hill.
Oh, it's awesome. I mean, we like I went to Surround McNabb High School, and it was like, I don't even know, like I guess it was the suburbs for sure, but I loved it, man. I was you know, just like a regular teenager.
What was mom and dad do for a living, that kind of thing?
My dad's a welder. My mom was a bartender.
So blue collar.
Blue collar.
All the way.
Yeah, totally.
All right. And because I know you've got like a music history, right?
Yeah.
All right.
I played in a bunch of bands.
How did that get started?
I was like, when I was a kid, I played a lot of baseball. My dad liked baseball a lot, and so he got me into that, and I was all right. I played on some traveling teams, and then when I was around like 13, 14, I was like, I kind of want to meet chicks, so maybe I should like learn an instrument. Right. And so I started a band at like 14.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, and with my buddy Lee, and we just started like kind of taught ourselves how to play instruments.
Okay.
And then
what was your first guitar?
Bass, because it was only 4 strings.
Gotcha.
And like my sort of natural sort of like I guess laziness or procrastination was like, I'll figure out the 6 strings later.
That's 2 less.
Exactly. Yeah, honestly, like I was trying to be savvy about what I had to learn. So I figured that out, and then eventually I moved on to guitar and piano, and I started sort of learning all the instruments.
Oh yeah, you went down that far, eh?
Yeah. Well, once I like kind of got a feel for it and a knack for it, I got into it.
Were you an obsessive kid?
Good question. You know, like I was like the things that I was into, like Saturday Night Live or Kids in the Hall or music, like the Beatles. I love
How old
the Beatles.
are you?
I'm 36.
Okay, all right, yeah. I was gonna say because I thought you were younger than that. I was gonna say Kids in the Hall didn't make sense, but yeah, 36. You're still there. I
right
guess.
in that pocket.
Yeah.
And so like I would like buy like when I was in like grade 7, I read like the Fast Times and Short Life of John Belushi.
Okay.
Which is like no kid should.
They turned
really
into
read.
Wired.
What you know it? With Michael Chiklis
and almost ruined his career. Yeah,
you got it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So anyway, I read that book when I was in like grade 6 or 7.
Yeah.
But really, all it did was make me want to like do drugs and be creative. And so it's like why like. No kid should be reading it. But anyway, so I read all those biographies. So to your question, it's like, was I obsessive? Yeah, like for the things I was interested in, I would read all that. Ate it
so
up.
Comedy was a big deal to you, eh?
All of that, yeah. Entertainment.
What was it? What got you hooked in that way? Because I remember for me, like as a kid, And I was lucky enough I ended up getting to meet him later on in my career, but like Howie Mandel jumped out to me as a kid, and this is like pre-Bobby's World.
I know what you're talking about, like when he would blow up the glove on his head.
Yeah, exactly,
thing,
right? And I think I first saw him on like one of those, the homeless, the comic live.
Oh, yeah. Just, it was the Billy Crystal thing?
Yeah, that one. So I sort of found him first in there, and to a kid he appealed to me, but I think I was just at the right age where it was like he was goofy enough that as a kid it appealed to me, but then like also threw in, like, not that Howie Mandel's the most intellectual comedian on the planet, but like it was enough sort of like thought-provoking comedy that it was like, oh, this is a thing, and then took that down to like Carlin and stuff. Where was your start? Was it SNL?
It was SNL, Kids in the Hall, like more like I got into stand-up like later. Like I remember trying to rent like Eddie Murphy Raw, and like one of my friend's moms was like, you guys can't rent that.
My mom rented it for me.
That's amazing. That's a good mom. I dig that. And so like I got into stand-up later, but like I loved the idea of just like sketches, like these sort of like self-contained 3-minute sort of pieces where you set up a premise and then you deliver the jokes, and yeah, it was, and you know, just like you get a couple laughs in class.
I think that's the difference between our, like, not that we're close enough, it's our generation and like the generation just behind us, is that comedy for me requires a fucking premise.
Sure.
I hate the, like, just the nonsensical, like, I mean, I'm gonna screw up his name, but Will Ferrell.
Yeah.
Brilliant comedian, all of that stuff, but 90% of his shit I can't watch.
Interesting.
I want a premise. I want you to be going somewhere.
You don't want just like absurd and like. Yeah. That's interesting. Yeah, I mean, like, but for me, it was like I got into all that stuff, and like, you know, comedy, it is what it is. But I think I was in like, you know, grade 5, and some kid got a laugh like talking back to a teacher.
Right.
And he got kicked out of the class, and that kid might not even, I don't know what he did, but I was like, that's it, man.
Did you catch on to it like that?
That's the thing. Oh man, I was like, he got all these laughs. I was like, that's the shit. I was like, so then from then on, I was a class clown and
just sort of trouble.
Drank it. I was always pretty savvy about.
You're good at
the edges.
It?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like I didn't go too far, but try to get the laughs where I could.
So high school comes along.
Yep. Music, yeah, that's right.
Did the comedy and music stuff intersect? I asked because recent guest Glenn Fricker is known for like metal stuff, but all of his background is comedy, and he got into like YouTube because of that.
Right.
Did comedy intersect with your music?
Yeah, well, we did like skits. My friend got like his parents got him a camcorder or whatever when we were in like grade 9 or grade 8, and we started just like writing and like sort of acting in our own skits, like obsessive. Like we would shoot like 5 skits a week. And
really?
there's 12 cassette tapes that are like about 3 hours long of all of this stuff from my teen years.
Do you still have that stuff?
I don't. He does.
Really?
I'm hoping the world never sees them.
Well, I was just gonna say we're definitely gonna have to get that.
Honestly, but I mean, like, there's stuff where you go, oh, that's actually that's crazy that at 15 we were kind of doing that or
you
playing
were doing
that.
5 a week.
We were, that's all we did. We were obsessed with it.
Wow. How long were they?
Oh, you know, like probably too long. You know, it's like we didn't have like the ability to edit properly.
Oh,
like,
gotcha.
You know, it's like you cut it down.
Tape to tape.
Yeah, so like it ends up being like kind of like you set up a camera, and you guys have an amazing setup, by the way. And you just kind of like you're improvising, you're doing stuff, and it's like to watch them now, you'd be like, oh my god, this is like 10 minutes. Like what are you guys even talking about? Like eating spaghetti or whatever. But yeah, I mean, it was great. And then at the same time, we started a band, so we were just trying to do creative things because it was fun and.
That's hilarious. Yeah. I hadn't thought about it in forever, but I remember finding a tape that I do not recall making, but it's a tape of me and some friends when we were kids doing like a radio show.
Oh yeah.
I have no memory whatsoever of actually doing it, but like I know it's my voice and I know it's the kids I grew up with, and I'm just like, I had no idea that this even came up. So it's funny that you've got a closet full of those things that you
so much.
What was the last time you watched any of it?
Probably about 3 years ago.
How drunk were you?
We got hammered.
You had to have been.
Yeah,
was it embarrassing? Like just cringy?
There were moments that were cringy.
Yeah.
But there were also moments where you're like, hey, we were kind of ahead of our time. You know, you sort of like pat yourself on the back. Well, not. I mean.
No. But like, if you're looking at it from that, like, do you sort of go like, oh, that's where that came from?
Yeah, you go, oh, that works. That's good. And then like 90% of it is garbage.
But did you start to like compare it to what you're doing now?
In some ways. And my buddy that like has all of them, he was like, let's get the old thing back together. Let's start doing skits. And I'm like, you know.
I mean, it's not tough actually, it's way easier these days.
That was his point.
Yeah.
He's like, we just shoot them, throw them up on YouTube. But you know.
Means sitting down 5 days a week.
It's a lot of work. to do it right, it's a lot of work.
Okay, so band comes along. Because you had a band that had some pretty decent success, right?
Yeah.
What was the band?
So that band was called San Sebastian.
Okay.
We were Pumps here in Hamilton. We've played This Ain't Hollywood, which is downstairs a couple times. And all the different places. Basically, we started that band, and it was literally like something to do on weekends to get free beer. And
how old were you when it started?
That band, probably like 25, 24, something like that.
Yeah.
And then, we got a record deal, and we...
Oh, really? Who'd you end up...
Universal Music.
Oh, wow.
We toured the country like 3 or 4 times, went to Africa.
Get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, man, it was like a legit deal. We opened for Headley, which hasn't aged well, but...
But it was...
It was an arena tour.
Right, well, there
so
you
literally
go.
we played like, 8 or 9 arenas across the country.
That's incredible. Talk to me about that whole process. That must have been pretty neat for you.
Oh, yeah, and we were a bar band. Like, we didn't know shit. We literally... Can we swear on this podcast?
No, of course.
Okay. We literally... Like, we had a record deal, and then we were doing all these, like, we did college tours, and then our management was like, hey, like, we got you on this Headley tour. This is, like, 2011, maybe.
Right.
And... we were like, amazing, and it's arenas, and we're like, you're gonna be the first on, you're opening. We're like, okay, but we were so green. Like, again, we were a bar band, we didn't know, and then we're thrust into this thing, and we get there, we didn't have a lighting guy or anything. There's all these things that you need to have, like your own sound guy, your own lighting guy,
okay.
And we just showed up in our like fucking van with our gear, and we're like, all right, like throw us on, and we had to scramble, and like our sort of like the guy that was sort of tour managing us was like, he worked out a lighting dude, so we ended up hiring the lighting dude that was doing the other band that was on the tour.
How does your manager put you on tour? And like, I mean, I understand why you don't fucking know what you're supposed to. Was your manager your buddy?
No, he was a legit manager.
Then, I mean, no offense or whatever. What the fuck's wrong with this guy?
He's a good guy. We won't kill him. He yeah, I mean, he just...
Is it just one of the, like, but I guess it comes back to the process or whatever, but like, how does a guy that's in the industry and knows what he's putting you on not know that you need a lighting guy and not know that you need the sound guy?
Great question.
Or did he know and just not think about it?
I don't know.
You were there and all
I just showed up. I was just trying to sing.
So tell me about that
Mick
first
Jagger
show.
my ass across stage.
What arena was it?
Where was it? That's a great question. It was in Kamloops, whatever the junior hockey arena was.
Okay.
Or anyway, it doesn't matter the city, but it was on the West Coast because we started west and came back east.
Okay.
And I remember we walked in, and it's like you go into the like where they load, like where like the hockey team or anyone would go, and you walk in, and I remember walking through these like bay doors, and then as you come in, you see the arena, and I remember like looking at the dudes in the band, I'm like, shit, I'm like, this is like legit. This is
what was
for real.
the biggest show you had played before that?
We'd done a radio thing in Cambridge or Kitchener called Beat Rots the Block.
Okay.
And it was like there was like 12 bands on the bill, and there was like Down with Webster and Marianas Trench. So
but it was
like
a fairly
huge
big
crowd.
Okay.
So we'd done that, and that was like big.
Right.
But this was like, this was different.
So you're in an arena.
Yeah.
And how did you find out there's all this shit that you need that you don't have?
Again, the dude that was sort of tour managing us, like, again, he was a buddy,
right,
who's gone on to like do great things, but he just wanted to go on tour and sort of like be a part of what we were doing.
Right.
He sort of took charge, and he was like,
just manned up.
He manned up because like Headley's people were like, okay, like who's your lighting guy, like who's doing your sound, all these things, and we were like, what? We didn't know. And then this guy, Adam Burchell, ended up being like, he took charge, and he was like, I got it, you guys, keep doing your crunches and whatever we did before shows. Not that I really did any crunches, but yeah. And then he took care of it.
And you walked up on stage and all your shit was taken care of.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
We had a lighting guy, the sound was done, and that was that.
So tell me about that, walking out on that stage.
I mean, it was weird. It was like, it's different than playing a bar, because like you're talking to 5,000 people.
Can you see any of them?
Well, I didn't have my contacts in, so it was kind of like a blessing and a curse, where it's like I could see the front row, but then everything else was sort of like conceptual to me.
Right.
And it's like I'd always like, read, like I was saying, I read all those books. It's like whenever you do theater, it's like you have to speak to the back of the crowd.
Yeah.
So it's like you project like a lot. And I was doing, I don't know, I was kind of in my head, but then after like maybe about halfway through the first song, it was like being back on a bar stage.
You were able to get that back to it that quickly.
You got it. And like my brother's in the band, he was the bass player. So like it's like I look at him, I look at Sean and Brody, who are the guitar players of the band, another set of brothers, and our drummer. It's like, oh, the 5 of us, like this is what we do. Like we're at a bar.
Right.
And you get over like the weirdness of it within about a minute.
Did you because I haven't seen you play, I don't know if this is even an appropriate
You're not missing
question,
much.
but that's not what I hear. But did you change the way you perform for that kind of stage? Like you said, you're projecting to the back of the crowd. Like, did you find yourself going like trying to make shit bigger?
It's a good question. Not in within the song, because I would like, it's like we were always a very energetic band, so it was always very demonstrative in its own way.
Yeah.
But when I was talking to the crowd, it was different.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Because it was like in some ways,
because you're not used to going, "Hello, Chicago."
Exactly. Yeah. It's like, Kamloops, are you having a good time?
Yeah,
I'm not doing that at the bar down the street. You know, it's like, so that would change some like my sort of on-stage bits between songs.
Right.
But when you're in it, it was just kind of normal.
Are you the kind of guy that put any thought into that when you were off stage, or was it just like figured out in the moment?
I would try to. But then it would always change. Like I'd try to plan, and then the minute you're in it, it's like none of the stuff you thought it was going to be. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
So, yeah. But I would think about it.
Did you ever like bail hard on something?
Oh yeah, I've said stupid things or got myself into like, it's like, what was I talking about? And then you kind of realize you're not making any sense, and it's like, all right, let's get to the next song, and you just try to get out of it.
Just you make this giant point and it just crickets.
Exactly.
Oh, all right.
Yeah.
So, all right. Oh, and there's a weird Windsor connection here too, right? Because when you were on tour, you guys ended up connecting with Mishu.
Love Mishu. That was our first Cross Canada tour.
Was it?
It was with Mishu.
So tell me about that.
It was us and Mishu. I love those guys.
Yeah.
Steph, I actually just went and saw him at the Horseshoe in Toronto. Like,
we haven't had Steph on the show. We definitely want to get Steph on the show.
Have you had Mike?
Mike. Oh, yeah. Mike. And Chrissy. Obviously, Chrissy wasn't in Mishu, but I've had Mike and Chrissy on.
Chrissy came out like on the last couple dates. Yeah. Like they've been together forever. But yeah, Mike is like the hardest working man in music. That guy is just constantly.
And works for CBC now.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, I got a full-time gig with CBC. Yeah.
But I Steph is great. Like, you got to get him.
Oh,
He's like the nicest guy ever.
All of those guys are fantastic.
Nice and talented. But we toured with them, and our band like drank a lot on tour.
That's so unlike bands.
I know. That's probably how we bonded in the first place.
Right.
But the Mishu boys were like a little bit more. What's the word?
Adult.
Yeah, like they were like,
always adult beyond their time. They're always goofy, but like
they were
like
musicians.
Yeah,
like we were using.
They were professionals.
They were pros.
Fucking assholes.
They were pros. Yeah, I know. Where's the fun in that? So, but when they were on tour with us, we were like sort of like not corrupting them, but we were like, let's get it. Right. Remember, we were in St. John, Newfoundland. Anyway, we were somewhere out east.
Right.
And we ended up at a hotel, and we decided to do this challenge where we did a draft where we picked 2 captains.
Okay.
And basically, it was the first room to 50 beers, I think. And so, like, I got drafted first or second, I can't remember, which is like, I don't know if that's
is that a life moment for you? Like, is that like, I have to consider some things now?
You'd think, but it did nothing. No, I took weird pride in it. And so our team killed their team. But we did mix and match. Of your team? We mixed and matched. I think our captain was our buddy Dan Hamilton.
Okay.
Yeah. But anyway, the night ended in Sasha. We had to call an ambulance.
No.
Yeah, he drank too much, and then collapsed and couldn't. I mean, I hope I'm not offside telling that story. I know he's got, he's doing video, audio stuff, and he's killing. He's a director. So
oh yeah, he's doing really well.
Maybe he'll be mad that I told that story, but he lived.
He lived to go on to do some incredible stuff too. A lot of his work's really good.
He's great, and the ambulance.
How long was that tour?
That one was probably like a 3-weeker, something like that.
How many times have you been across the country with music?
Shit, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5.
So you did Canada, you did Africa. Tell me about Africa. What was that?
What that was Cadbury. I'm
lost already.
Yeah. So Cadbury does chocolate.
Yeah.
And they farm all of their cocoa, which is like a major ingredient in chocolate.
One of the minor ones, yeah.
In Ghana, in Africa.
Okay.
Specifically Kumasi. So what happened is to like give back to the community where they farm all of this cocoa.
Right.
They were sending like 5,000 bicycles, because in Africa it takes you like two for some of the rural communities.
Yeah.
It takes you like 2 hours to walk to school.
Okay.
So kids will end up just like not going.
Right.
Like if I had to walk 2 hours to school, I literally would still not have a high school education.
Right.
So, but if you give them a bike, it's like a car there.
Right.
So like now they have a bike, they'll bike to school.
Gotcha.
So Cadbury did this really sort of cool outreach initiative where they sent it. They needed a band to go out there and play in these like sort of rural communities and hand out some of these bikes. And we were the band that like did
That's amazing. How did you get hooked up with that?
Through Much Music.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, so you were already on with Universal at the time.
Yep.
And so was this all just management stuff, or did it just kind of come to you and go, "Hey guys, this is what's happening"? Or
the way we got the Universal deal is because we went on that show Disband.
I don't know.
It was like kind of like a reality show sort of deal.
Okay.
So I worked at Much Music. Like I got a gig at Much Music probably like out of high school.
Okay.
Which is why I didn't go to college or university.
Which is like interning, that kind of thing? Or
Exactly.
I'd
entered a VJ search.
Okay.
And I got in the top 8. I did not win, but while I was there, all the other like sort of like contestants were like, we're in Toronto for the first time. They would like go on Queen Street and shop. I was like, again, I was obsessed with things like television and all sort of facets. I was like, I'm in a television studio. Like, I might never be back here again.
I want to know what's going on.
I stayed. I didn't fucking leave that studio at all. And so, like, the floor director, I was like, how do you do this? And one of the guys that was producing the promos, like, to advertise our VJ search, he had this whole bit where we were in, like, these intern ties and, like, suits, and he was using, like, a Steadicam. But I asked just a million questions. That guy eventually, like, so anyway, I lose. I go into the office and they're like, hey, like, we're not gonna, sorry it didn't work out. You're a little bit too much like Rick the Temp, like, you're from Hamilton, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, okay. And she was like, but you know what? Everybody here was really impressed with you, sort of your, commitment and your questions and all that stuff. So maybe we'll bring you back in some sort of intern capacity. Oh. And I was like, bullshit. She's lying. She doesn't want me to go hang myself, which I was considering. Because I was like, I was there. I was in Toronto. I was like,
this is what
I'm winning this. I'm never going back to Hamilton. So I was like, this is my shit.
Did you really go into it with that attitude?
Once I got there, yeah. I was like, yeah, man. I was like, this is like...
I've always wondered about that. Because, like, I've never done, like, the competition thing for anything that I've done. But, like, I could never imagine anybody entering one of those things, like, honestly thinking that they're gonna, like, I could go in saying I'm worthy of winning.
Yeah.
I would never go in with the idea that, like, I'm worthy of winning and that's a thing that's gonna fucking happen.
Here's the thing, though. I was also delusional. Like, when I entered the contest, I was like, oh, yeah. I'm like, I'm gonna win. I'm in. It's over. Once I got there, and I realized that, like, over 2,000 people had entered, and I was, like, one of 8. And, like, I was even told by one of the producers, they had, like, they put them in silos. So it's like, we have, like...
You're one of these guys.
Here's 10 blonde girls. Right. Here's this. Here's a guy. And I think honestly, I mean, I don't even know if I'm allowed to tell the story. But like, I was in the group of, I guess, like, I did, like, a funny video.
Right.
So in the group of, like, the 8 guys that looked like me, they were like, what's his ethnicity? And they because I am a part Indonesian, they were like... I think it checked a box, so I probably got it over like a regular sort of just like white dude.
Got Asian guy.
You got it.
Oh, yeah. That's a thing that happens, huh?
But
I mean, but at the same time, like, it's funny because I've actually thought about this point before. At the end of the day, the other things that you would select off of are just as fucking random. Like,
of course.
You know what I mean?
And why not?
Yeah.
I'm all for it. Man. Yeah. But anyway, so...
Especially when it works to your favor.
Yeah, exactly. Once I got in and I was like, got my foot in the door. I think that's like anything, like with, career opportunities or things that you're into. It's like the minute you can stick your toe in the door,
just like whatever
do everything you can to like make it happen.
Yeah.
But the luck part, the hard part, and this is the delusional part, is like me thinking like, oh, I'll get it for sure. When literally it was like one person in that room picking another guy.
Right.
And I have a different thing.
And I think a lot of times it works out like that. Like even if you do go into it with those delusional sort of like expectations, if you've got half a fucking brain, what you're doing is going in with a goal, but just like willing to accept whatever gets set in front of you and push it as far as you can.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Was this a thing that was taught to you, or did you just sort of have those natural instincts? Like, were mom and dad sort of like, these are the ways...
Oh, no.
No, oh, we talked about this. They're blue collar. Mom and dad barely spoke to you.
Oh, I never like had to show a report card or anything. Like,
oh, really?
Oh, yeah. Like, and by the way, like super loving, and funny people. Like, my mom she's passed away, but she was so funny. My dad is a very my friends love my dad. We call him Roy Boy.
Okay.
He's literally like a 60-year-old that just like parties hard and is very charismatic, and people like love hanging with him. So they're really great and charismatic people, but again, they did not give a shit about like if I was passing a grade or not. It was kind of like up to us. So my brother and I kind of like figured out how we were going to go about things. Probably, I'm interested in this sort of as a thing. Like, it's like if you don't have any sort of like obvious guidance, it's like where do you get your morality from? Where do you get your ideas from? And honestly, it's probably like TV. Like we watch The Wonder Years, and we're like, hey man, like.
So that's what good people are.
Kevin Arnold's doing it right. Like,
right.
That's how you got to do it.
He got Winnie.
He did get Winnie, yeah.
that show is just in the right, like, was the perfect age for me.
Right in the pocket.
I think I'm the exact age as Fred Savage or something.
Oh, yeah?
So, yeah.
That's funny.
So, no, that's funny. That's an interesting reference. I'm not used to having people that are close enough to my age on the show, so
Yeah.
it's like, it's either people that are way older than me or way younger than me, so it's very rare we get, like, this Gen X kind of...
We're connecting, man.
That's it.
We're connecting on pop culture.
So after you go traveling across the country with your record deal, how does that work out for you in the end?
Well, being in a band is hard in Canada, so it wasn't very lucrative.
Right.
And like, I mean, here's the thing: touring is like very hard, and like sticking with is very hard. We did one record for the label, and then we were working on a second record. But the thing is, me and Sean, who was in the band, we both had careers before we like. It was like the band was a lark.
Okay.
It was something that we kind of did again to get free beer on weekends.
Right.
But we like I was working at Much already as a producer.
Okay.
He was working in like for cell phones like as a manager.
But I mean, Much is helping you through here anyway, right? Because
Well, this is the gag. So basically, someone I worked with, the guy that produced that show, Disband,
Right.
had known about my band through like Facebook
Okay.
or maybe even MySpace.
MySpace.
Yeah. And so he was like, "Hey, do you guys want to do this thing?" And so I was like, "No," because I was cutting the promos for it.
Okay.
And it was like their kind of goal was to embarrass the bands. Like,
Oh,
it's
really?
a reality show, right?
Oh,
so it's like
yeah.
you'd put them in uncomfortable positions and see how the band sort of
Right.
reacts. So we go in, but I wasn't gonna like deny the opportunity to the other four guys in the band. So
Right.
I'm like, well, let's go in and have a meeting. So we go to the meeting. They tell us all this stuff, and we're like, we don't want to like end up in like diapers in a weird music video. And they're like, well, I mean, you would have to respond to that scenario. Like we asked a lot of questions. Then the five of us sort of voted, and they were like, it was like, do we want to do this show? And
Was it like a Road Rules kind of thing?
it was
Or
like-
this was disbanded. This
Disbanded.
wasn't. Sorry, I keep thinking it was like Africa. So, but
No,
you're
no, no.
talking about disbanded.
I'm talking
Okay,
about like the
okay.
opportunity to get the
Yeah,
record
okay,
label.
yeah,
So it's
sorry.
like I work at Much. There's the show Disband that's
Yeah.
happening. They asked because I work with these people and they'd seen my stuff online. Does your band want to be a part of it?
Okay.
And so we agreed to do it. Or sorry, we go to this meeting, and then after the meeting, we're like, take a vote. And it was 3-2. My own brother voted against me, but me and the other guitar player voted to not do it.
Yeah.
And then the other three voted yes. So we did it. And by the way, like, I don't regret it at all.
That's great though that like you were able to see, because like a lot of those situations go like, all right, we're gonna vote, and then the vote happens, and the one guy's like, oh fuck you, we're not doing it anyway.
No, we were always very like democratic and
Yeah.
like they're still like my best. I love these guys.
Oh, yeah?
You know what I mean?
Oh,
Yeah.
that's
Oh,
great.
of course. I was literally with them last night drinking. So
That's awesome.
So we were always a very sort of like we were friends before we were a band.
Gotcha.
And then we were a band, and the friendship always superseded like business or whatever, which maybe was a detriment. I don't know. Maybe if we were more sort of like cutthroat or whatever, we would have been a more successful band.
Right.
But anyway, so we do disband. We get the record deal out of that. We tour a bunch, and then Cadbury comes along. We go to Africa. We do all this stuff. Gets to the second record, and we'd been writing a bunch of stuff. We wanted to sort of. They were kind of like, we want you guys to be more like pop, like write more like Marinus Trench or like Headlier in that sort of area.
Right.
And we were like, shit, we want to be more like the Strokes or like, Kings of Leon.
It always amazes me. Like I understand it to a degree, but like a company comes on and picks up a band because they heard the band,
Yeah.
and then they bring the band in and they say, "We love your stuff. Now change all of it."
Yeah.
The fuck.
I know.
All right, sorry, go ahead.
No worries, no worries. No, you're fired up. I like it. You're passionate. Anyway, I mean, the truth is our songs weren't good enough anyway.
Okay.
So it's like
That's an interesting
fuck. I mean, I'm no longer delusional.
Okay.
So anyway, we'd written a record that was kind of like we were trying to do Exile on Main Street by the Stones.
Okay.
So we were sending them all these like really like rock tunes and like sort
Yeah.
of gritty like bare bones stuff, and they were just like not feeling it. But at that point, we'd been in the band we'd been signed for like a year and a bit, and again, I had to move back home, and I was living in my grandmother's basement just because there's no money in Canadian
Right.
music. So I left like the Much job, and then after that run, we'd sort of decided like, I don't know, man. Like, are we gonna get practical, or are we gonna like actually go until we make it? And we sort of made like I think a practical decision. Maybe it's the wrong decision. Maybe we'd be playing arenas right now
Sure.
if we'd stuck with it. But we went back to our careers.
But I mean, if your heart wasn't into it to go forward anyway, you never would have built anything out of it. Right?
Yeah, and here's the thing: it's like it's really difficult. Like, why does anybody start playing music or writing songs? It's fun, right? It's creative. It's like this sort of, it's this thing that you do because it's like it's personal and it's joyful. And then the minute you have to monetize that and make it a business, it's like how do you negotiate those two things?
Yeah.
Like, what am I compromising on? What I'm selling something that is kind of personal, and there's people that do it that are amazing at it.
Mm-hmm. So how long has it been since you guys kind of
disbanded?
Yeah, like it was there an official sort of like now we're done, or was it?
Well, no. The joke is always we've never officially broke up because we don't want to give the record label their $70,000 back.
Oh,
but we've never officially broken up. But we probably played our last gig in like 2014.
Okay, so it's been a while for it.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so do you play, like, was there another band afterwards?
No.
You just kind of...
No, I'll have drinks and like at an after party I'll sit down at a piano and try to get everybody singing like Don't Look Back in Anger by Oasis.
Right.
So I still enjoy that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But like, I mean, the idea of gigging,
Not even a thing.
No.
It just takes it all out of you?
Yeah, I mean, and like to do it right I'd have to like rehearse a bunch, and like I haven't written a song in a very long time, but I have like 100 songs like written, like demos, all that stuff, like from when I was like 15, 16 all the way up until I was probably like 30.
Does it make it harder to sort of even think of music as a thing to do because you've seen it at... Because like
I know how the trick's done.
But like at some point, even the guys in bar bands
Yeah.
have like that thing in the back of their head, and like that's not a thing that's in the back of your head anymore because you've seen it.
Yeah.
So does it make the rest of the shit just not even worth...
No, well, here's the thing. I respect the hell out of guys in bar bands, people that are like gigging all the time, because they have like this pure love for getting up and performing and doing these things in any sort of venue.
Yeah.
But I don't have that, like I have that drive. I don't have it anymore.
Right.
But I'm at peace with it.
That's awesome, though.
Yeah.
Do you go back and look through pictures and that's ever, or...
No. I mean, maybe like
You're
every
not
few
that
months.
far away from it, though.
No. Like sometimes if I'm like hammered, and I go home and I go on YouTube and I'm watching the old videos and I'm like, oh man, we were pretty damn good. Who doesn't do that on some level? But I'm like, there's never like a day where I'm like, we should have stuck with it, man, or like...
Yeah?
No,
it's
like,
great.
I'm happy. And I don't really see much value in like looking back in like a way that's like, what could I have done differently there?
I also like the fact that you said that everybody in the band is still friends, because there's a story that you never hear.
Yeah.
Like, our band like made it to like this level and then we were done and now we just go drink beers instead. Like...
It was, and you know what, and I get that that's probably rare, like, because, anytime you get, like, a bunch of personalities together of guys that want to get on a stage and perform...
Well, there's a lot of expectations in that, too, right?
Good guys, though, man. Everybody in that group was, like, just good guys and, like, fun to hang out with.
How did you guys manage that, though? Because there is a lot of expectations when you're going through that.
Just manage what, specifically?
So, as you're going through this phase or whatever you want to call it, every step of the way, there's outside influences, right? That are kind of telling you what you can do, what you couldn't do, what you might not do. And there's a lot of egos involved. There's a lot of like opportunities that are involved. There's a lot of people forget that, bands are usually, better as a group than individual. How did you guys manage all of that? Was it just lucky enough that you guys dug each other enough that it never became a problem? Or?
Yeah, the other 4 guys in the band would probably tell you that I was the biggest ego in the band.
Oh, you're the piece of shit.
I was the piece of shit, yeah. Right. And no, and there was an incident with a towel in Winnipeg, but anyway, I can't get into that. But because so if I was the biggest like ego in the band, and really it was just more like stress about trying to like, how do we put on the best show ever?
Right.
And I'm playing arenas and I'd never done this and all that stuff. But even if I was the biggest ego, like I'm still a pretty reasonable guy,
right?
And like I think empathetic, and like I do care about those dudes.
Yeah.
So I wasn't just like a complete tyrant, and those guys are like super cool and like laid back, but they also have egos.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like I feel like with our group, anytime something would flare up, it would be over within 10 minutes because it's like let's have a beer and chill. Like it's about friendship before it's
that
about
works out really
all this
nice,
shit.
then.
Yeah, I think.
I think having a personality like that may have been what made all the other stuff possible.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, again, like I've said before, like we had basically the best like rock star fantasy camp ever. Like we basically got to experience everything.
What was it, 3 years you said?
Yeah, something like that.
Front to back?
Exactly. And
that's
like,
awesome.
Yeah, we saw the world, like Panama. We went to Panama, like a water company flew us out, and yeah, man, like it was awesome.
That's great, man.
Yeah, it was cool.
Okay, so the band splits off. What's your next move?
I go back to television. So
Right away?
Well, I kind of got lucky. Yeah, like a guy went on maternity leave, and because like when I built a good career there before I left to do the band. So like when this guy went on maternity leave, they were like, "Hey, like, do you want to come back and fill in?"
Yeah.
And I wasn't like, "Shit, yeah, I'm living in my grandmother's basement. I'm desperate." I was like, "Well, I don't know. The band is doing pretty well."
Right.
And then eventually I went back, and it's all been great.
How are we for time?
You got time.
Okay. Sorry.
No worries at all.
Yeah. Okay, so back to Much.
Yeah.
Just producer stuff?
Yeah, so I still do this. My job. I write and direct commercials, and I produce them.
Oh, okay.
So like, yeah, basically like.
So wait, Much does all their own
in-house agency.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
Okay. So like not just for their own channel, but like they work their own clients or whatever?
Yep.
That's
Well, and Bell Media has like a bunch of channels,
Much
right?
is, I keep
Much, Bravo, Space, CTV, all these things.
I forgot they were extension of Bell.
Yeah.
For some reason, I always thought of them as independent. No, okay, that makes sense. So how does the podcast come about?
So I'm friends with Max Kerman, who sings in that band Arkells.
I've never heard of it.
Yeah, no. Which, and by the way, like we're talking about my sort of unsuccessful band. Those guys who are great dudes, they literally Max one would be successful at anything he's ever done. I've said this a bunch. He's just a very positive, like go-getter, smart guy, and just like he thinks everything's possible. So that's sort of how he approaches things. And everyone in that group is like really sort of like smart and kind, and they get it, which is why they're so successful, and they make great songs. So Max and I would hang out, like he'd come off tour. And
that's right. They're from Hamilton.
Absolutely.
As well. So did you know them like pre-Arkells?
We toured with them.
Oh,
They were one of the bands that we toured with, and I didn't know them pre-Arkells because they all went to McMaster here in Hamilton.
Right.
And then they were kind of doing things. They'd signed with what's that label that Dallas Green's on? I can't remember. Anyway, so they'd signed with that label, so they were kind of like making noise here in Hamilton. And, and again, we were kind of like shit kicking around, playing bars, so we were aware of each other.
Gotcha.
And then a friend of ours, Dan Hamilton, was dating a girl that lived with Max. And then so they bond, and then he brings Max in, and then the group sort of forms.
Gotcha.
Years ago. And then we end up touring with them a bunch. And then years later, after my band, I was already back in Much, Max would come off tour, and we would get together, and we would, I don't know, we just like shoot the shit at a bar.
Right.
And he was like, "Mikey, we should start a podcast," because he was listening to all these podcasts on tour. And I was like, "Oh man," I'm like, everybody has a podcast. I tend to be like sort of practical and I guess leaning negative, where I'm like, like whatever. But he's like,
because you have good experience at being the
yes, I failed enough that I understand the realities of the world.
Where this son of a bitch just keeps succeeding.
He just keeps fucking winning. So it's like, yeah, get your positive energy out of my face. So he's like, it's gonna be great, man. He's like, come on, let's just do it. And so I was kind of like, you know what, like that Jim Carrey movie, Yes Man. I was like, oh, okay, what could it harm?
Right.
I'm down. And so once we decided to do it, we started formulating how is it going to be, what's the format, blah, blah. We brought in our friend Shane Cunningham, who's hilarious, who I've been friends with forever, and he's just one of the most weird and creative people I know, and very, very hilarious. And we built the format. We did 3 demos where the only guests we had were like favors from Max. So we had like Menno Versteeg from Colorado, his wife Annie Murphy, who's on Schitt's Creek.
Okay.
And then we had Lights. And basically it was just all favors, right?
Yeah.
And then those 3 demos we brought into Much, and we were like, are you guys interested in doing this with us?
Oh, great.
And they listened, they were like, yeah, it's awesome. And then it became a thing.
That's awesome. And that you what, like 2 years now?
2 years, yeah, over 100 episodes.
Oh, that's fantastic.
100 guests.
Where do you guys shoot out of? You shoot out of...
Much, yeah. We're really nimble. We don't have this whole setup. I mean, you guys can't see this. There's like 50 cameras and mics everywhere and lights. We're a lot more sort of bare bones.
That's awesome.
Yeah, but so we can go to whomever we need to go to. And again, we relied on a lot of favors for guests in the beginning. And then I remember the first real guest we had was Josh Groban.
Yeah.
Because it was like he was promoting something. And I remember we were told we can't ask about Kat Dennings, who he was dating at the time.
Okay.
And I was nervous because it was like my first real interview that wasn't somebody that knew somebody.
Right.
And he comes in, or just before he comes in, I'm with Shane and he was going to engineer it. And he goes, "Hey, what do you think Josh Groban's worth?" And I go, I don't know. Like, I don't know. I thought about it. He's like, check it out, man. I'm like, okay. So I look it up and he's worth over $10 million. And he goes, "Isn't it weird that you're going to be talking to a guy that's worth $10 million?" I'm like, well, fuck, it wasn't weird until you brought it up. I'm like, and now you got me all weird about it. And then anyway, so it was a great conversation. And then his it's like anything. It's like once you get one, then the other ones go, oh, well, Josh Groban talked to them, so they must be legit. And then it goes from there. And then now we've been lucky enough to have like 1 million people. So
that's fantastic.
Yeah, it's great.
What's the plan? Is there one?
Nah, man.
That's great.
I'm just rolling through life.
Yeah, I hear you, man.
Yeah.
That's kind of where we're at with it, too. Now.
And it's a side gig. So it's like, we do it outside of our day job. Like, we all, like, Max is in a band, Shane and I both are writer-producers for commercials. This is a labor of love, our podcast, so.
That's great. Well, definitely check out the Mike Got Much podcast. And thanks for hanging out with us, man.
Thanks for having me, man. It's been much appreciated.
It's great.
Cheers.